Chapter 17, Wedding Disaster. Alicia carefully leaned on her tiptoe as she fixes Ben's tie. "Okay," she said, giving it a final tug. She glanced sideways suddenly. "Hey, Johnny." Johnny freezes mid-step before exhaling. "Wow," he laughed, his eyes widening. "Does that amaze anyone else? How did she know it was me? I did not say anything." Alicia smirked before replying, "Well, to be honest, you kind of smell like ash." Then she turned her head slightly, her smile softening. "And hello, starling." Madison blinked, a little surprised. "How'd you?" "You always smell like roses," Alicia said warmly, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Madison's lips curved into a shy smile. "Hey, Alicia," she said, clasping her hands together. Ben chuckles as Alicia grabs his boutonniere and places it in his suit. "You're late," he told Johnny. "Oh, let's not make today about me." Johnny looks over to them before finishing off with, "It is Reed and Sue's big day. Let us give them the attention for a change." Ben, holding back his playful smirk, decided to tease Alicia. "Ow!" Ben yells and Alicia hit him on his shoulders as Ben chuckles to himself. "Oh, do not do that," she scolded as Johnny and Madison watches the scene. Madison does a little smile. She loves how Ben is happy, and Johnny's gaze shifted from Ben and Alicia to Madison, and he thought to himself, "God, I am an idiot. I should have stopped that woman from saying that, but she wanted me to be myself. She might not have said it, but her tone when she asked me to bring another girl," Johnny's mind whispered to him. Ben chuckled, grinning. "Okay, you're perfect." "You're perfect," Alicia teased back softly. The two kissed, and Madison looked away politely, biting her lip to stifle a grin. Johnny, on another hand, pulled a face that looks across of judging but not judging in a way. "I'll see you upstairs," Alicia said, brushing Ben's rocky cheek with her hand before stepping away. She gave a little wave in the general direction of the doorway. "Bye, Johnny, bye, starling." "Bye," Madison said softly. Johnny does a little wave as Ben sighed happily as he watched her leave. "So, it seems like you and Alicia are doing well. Annoyingly so, in fact," Johnny says as he leans on the counter. Ben's grin widened. "Yeah, I'm a lucky guy." "Yes, you are," Johnny says as he gave a little smile. "Question for you, though. How do you guys, he clicked his tongue suggestively. Ben's eyes went wide. "That's none of your business." "Okay, all right," Johnny said quickly, hands raised, though his grin stayed. "I am just concerned. I would hate to wake up one morning and find out she was killed in a rock slide." Before Ben could react, Johnny took off down the corridor, laughing. Ben's booming voice followed. "I'll show you a rock slide." Madison shook her head, a laugh escaping her lips. "You two are hopeless," she said. A few minutes before the wedding, a woman walked over to Alicia and carefully pressed a bouquet of roses into her hands. Alicia's face lit with warmth as her fingers traced the soft petals. "Oh, thank you," she said. "You're welcome," the woman replied. Alicia tilted her head toward the familiar shuffle of Johnny's boots and, of course, the smell of ash radiated from him. "Johnny, you should not tease him so much." "It was a joke," Johnny smirked as he pours himself a drink. "I don't know," Alicia said, her tone carrying a little weight. "I think it bothers you to see him really happy and in love. I think you're jealous." Johnny let out a disbelieving laugh. "You think I'm jealous?" "MHM," Alicia hummed with certainty. Johnny puffed his chest. "Have you seen the women I've dated?" Alicia laughed softly, shaking her head. "No." Johnny paused as he looks at her with a little look of "really" to it as he does a little smile. "You can only fool yourself for so long, Torch," Alicia teased knowingly. "Ta-da," Ben says as he walks into the room with Susan linked to his arm. "Hey, it's the bride of Stretchy Man," Johnny says as he smiles, looking over to Susan. Susan's heels clicked across the floor as she entered, her smile small but real. "Don't start." Don't listen to him," Ben said with an affectionate rumble. "You look gorgeous." "Thanks," Susan said softly. "I'll see you out there, sweetie." "Come on," Ben said, guiding Alicia gently with his arm. Okay, Alicia said, giving Susan's hand a squeeze as she passed by. Susan's smile wavered for a moment, falling away as soon as Alicia and Ben moved out of earshot. Johnny looks over his shoulder as he puts down his glass. You know, you don't look completely ridiculous in that dress, Johnny says. Susan looks at him for a moment. Is that obnoxious brother talk for you look kind of nice? Susan says as she holds back a smile. Johnny chuckled, his tone softening. You look beautiful. Susan's breath caught. She looked at him, her eyes warming as she smiled. Thank you. Johnny exhaled, his bravado slipping. Dad would be proud. Susan's lips trembled before she nodded, her smile bittersweet. Yeah. The siblings hugged, clinging to each other in the quiet before the storm. Madison, standing nearby, smiled faintly at the tender moment, her fingers nervously fiddling with the edge of her bouquet. Time skip, the wedding. The guests turned as Ben and Alicia walked down the aisle first, Alicia's hand resting on his rocky arm as he carefully guided her step by step. Madison followed behind them, clutching her flowers a little too tightly, keeping her eyes fixed forward as cameras flashed through the windows outside. Suddenly, Reed's PDA began to beep. Reed, will you shut your cell phone off? Ben hissed over his shoulder. Actually, this is a Reed began, but the wedding march started and drowned him out. Heads turned as Susan appeared, radiant on Johnny's arm, walking over to Reed. After arriving to Reed, the officiant cleared his throat. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to. From overhead, a booming voice interrupted. Sue and Reed, congratulations on your wedding, shouted a man from a hovering helicopter. The officiant faltered. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join this couple, Reed Richards and Susan Storm. Ben sniffled loudly, fumbling with a handkerchief. Sorry, he muttered, his rocky eyes misty. Reed's PDA beeps again. In the bond of holy matri, money, the officiant continued. Susan leaned toward Reed, her voice sharp. I can't believe you actually brought that thing to our wedding. I know, but there's a good reason, Reed said quickly. We have to get through this quickly. Should I continue? The officiant asked nervously. Yes, please, Reed said. There are many kinds of love. Could you skip to the end, please? Reed interrupted. Reed, Susan snapped. Excuse me, the officiant stammered. Before anyone could react, Reed's PDA shrieked again, and suddenly every electronic device in the area shut down. Guests gasped. Above them, the helicopter faltered. We lost power, we're going down, a man shouted. It's too late, another cried. Pull up. I'm trying. Panic surged through the crowd. Reed stretched, yanking a couple away from danger. Susan thrust her arms out, a shimmering force field blooming to catch the plummeting craft. Ben, Alicia cried, clutching her cane instinctively. Susan's eyes flicked toward her, still straining to hold the barrier. Ben lunged, shoving Alicia out of harm's way before grabbing the helicopter's tail. His rocky arms strained as he forced them to the ground. Madison ducked with the others, her hands shielding her head as debris scattered across the aisle. Her heart pounded in her chest, but then movement caught her eye. She looked up, her breath catching. A figure glided through the sky above the chaos, its entire body gleaming like polished silver, a long surfboard cutting through the clouds with impossible grace. Johnny, Reed yells as Johnny looks at him. This is Dolce, Johnny says as Reed gives him a look. Johnny sighs before running to the edge of the roof yelling, Flame on. Madison rushed to the edge of the aisle, her bouquet tumbling from her hands. Her stomach twisted as she watched Johnny rocket skyward before seeing him fall to the ground a few minutes later. Johnny, Madison yells before Reed holds her back as she wanted to go to him to help him. Susan sat down looking at everything that's in ruins as tears falls and Madison looks over to her, and she sits down next to her and holds her. Chapter 18, Shifting Bonds. After a while, everyone was in Reed's lab. Johnny sat down, Madison next to him. Susan gives him a glass of water. It looked like a man but completely covered in silver, and it was flying this, like a surfboard thing. I know it sounds crazy, Johnny explains. Ben crossed his arms, smirking. Oh no, not at all. So did you follow the shiny man to Lollipop Land or Rainbow Junction? Look, I know what I saw, Johnny shot back. Thank you, Johnny, Reed said. It is all right. Whatever this thing's physical appearance, is it having the ability to convert matter and energy? So it caused the anomalies, General Hager asked. It radiates cosmic energy when it exerts itself, Reed explained. Randomly affecting matter. This silver surfer did not want to be detected. It destroyed the sensor. It knew it was being monitored, Susan asked. And traced it back here, Reed confirmed. We're dealing with something highly resourceful. Johnny looks over to Reed for a split moment before looking away before getting up. Are you feeling okay? Susan asked softly. Yeah, I gotta walk this off, Johnny muttered as he walks off. We have to destroy this thing before it attacks again, Hager ordered. Richards, find me another way to track it. The army men, including Frankie, leave. Reed sighed. Sue, I am so sorry. The only reason I did not tell you about it is because I did not want you to worry. I'm not mad that you built the sensor, Susan said quietly. It was the right thing to do. Oh, great, Reed said as he smiles before turning away to walk back into his lab. Susan squinted her eyes as her force field shows, and it stops Reed in place. I wasn't finished, Susan said. The force field turns Reed around to face Susan. Reed blinked. Okay, sorry, please continue. See, this proves exactly what I've been saying all along, Susan said. Could you drop the force field, please? Reed asked sheepishly. We can't even Sorry, Susan said before she let it dissolve, and Reed uses his powers to make himself look like himself again. We can't even have a wedding without it turning into World War III, she said bitterly. I know, Reed admitted, but once we are married, everything will be back to normal. We will never have normal lives as long as we do what we do, Susan said. How could we possibly raise a family like this? I'm going to go check on Johnny. She turned and left the room. Madison, silent but thoughtful, quickly followed her sister out. Outside, Johnny stood on the balcony before bracing himself and jumps off the roof after screaming, "Flame on." Johnny, Susan's voice carried from behind him. She stepped into view, Madison just at her side. Before either could say more, a sudden whooshing sound tore through the air. Whoa, Johnny shouted. Both Susan and Madison's eyes darted upward, just in time to see Johnny plummet from the sky. Johnny, Madison cried, rushing forward. He hit the pavement with a heavy thud, groaning as he tried to roll over. Hey, are you all right, pal? A man called from the street. Is he all right? Another voice added. Susan and Madison hurried out of the building, running to him. Johnny, are you okay? Susan asked frantically as she knelt beside him. Johnny winced. I do not know. I feel strange since my run-in with Surfer Boy. Madison crouched beside him, her hand hovering near his shoulder. Strange how Johnny, dizzy, weak, talked to us. Maybe we should get you checked out, Susan said, lifting a hand toward his forehead. The moment her palm touched his skin, a spark erupted. Then Susan ignited into flames. Stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll, Johnny yelped, stumbling back in shock. Susan screamed in terror. Oh my God, Sue, Johnny shouted, panicking. Madison scrambled to her feet, shielding Susan with her arms even as the heat flared. Susan, listen to me, breathe, focus. But Susan's body lifted off the ground, flames still consuming her. Reed, help, she cried, her voice shrills with fear. Sue, Reed appeared, his face twisting in panic. I'm on fire, Reed, she screamed. You're on fire, Reed echoed. Why, I think, she shouted back. Hold on, Reed said quickly, stretching his arms toward her. Pull me in, Susan screamed as she fought to lower herself down. Help! Onlookers gasped, one woman pointing. Hey, it's the Human Torch. I'm not Johnny, Susan yelled, her voice breaking. Reed, how did this happen? Reed demanded. I touched Johnny and then this, Susan cried. Well, where is Johnny? Reed asked. A sheepish voice spoke up. Here, Johnny said, invisible. Madison's eyes widened. She realized immediately what that meant. The powers had switched, and she also knew what was coming next. She quickly stepped forward, speaking low but firm to Johnny. Johnny, touch her. Now, get it back under control before everyone sees. The second Johnny obeyed, Madison clenched her fists. Energy pulsed through her fingers, and with a soft shimmer, she cloaked Susan in invisibility just as her clothes burned away, hiding her from the crowd's gawking eyes. Susan's flames sputtered out. She sobbed against Reed as he caught her. Madison stood back, her heart pounding. You are okay, Sue. You are safe. I have got you. Time skip, Reed's lab. All of Sue's results are normal, Reed said, adjusting his microscope. But Johnny's. Johnny leaned forward. Johnny's are what? Your encounter with the surfer has affected your molecules, Reed explained. They're in a constant state of flux. Johnny inhaled sharply. Is that bad? Well, it caused you to temporarily switch powers with Sue, Reed said. Ideally, I'd like to run more tests. Would you like a volunteer? Ben asked with a grin. No, everyone chorused. Hey, this is serious, Johnny protested. I just wanted to give him a hug, Ben muttered. Susan frowned. We don't know the extent of his condition yet. It could be progressive, it could be degenerative, Reed added grimly. Ben shrugged. It could be fun. No, Ben, Reed started. But Ben clapped a hand on Johnny's shoulder. Instantly, their powers swapped. Ben, Susan shouted. Madison's eyes widened. Ben, what did you just? She cut herself off as she stared at Johnny. Ben blinked, patting his chest. Whoa, hey, it is me, I am back. Johnny looked at his reflection in a metal tin, his rocky form staring back. Oh my God, come on, we just said this is serious. Oh yeah, serious, Ben teased, laughing. Johnny groaned. You've got to be kidding me. Ben laughed harder, snapping his rocky fingers until a fireball sparked to life. Hey, not bad. Incredible, Reed muttered. Johnny jabbed a finger toward Reed. You'd better be able to fix this. I am right on it, trust, Reed began. But Ben cut him off, launching a fireball at Johnny. Ben, stop it, Susan yelled. Ben grinned. I am starting to see why you like that, huh? Johnny charged at him. Oh no, Ben shouted, backing up as Johnny slammed his hands onto his shoulders. The powers swapped back instantly. Aw, crap, Ben muttered, looking down at his rocky arms again. Madison stepped forward, her voice softer now. Ben, you still have the watch I gave you, right? You did not need to do that to prove anything. Johnny ran a hand down his face. That is not funny. What am I supposed to do in the meantime? Just, try to keep your distance from us, Reed said carefully. You and me are gonna be spending a whole lot of time together, pal, Ben says with a little smirk. Madison shook her head, muttering under her breath. This is going to end so well. Chapter 19, The Power Trio. Madison walks over to Johnny, who is outside on the balcony. Johnny, are you okay? Madison asks softly as she walks next to him, and Johnny sighs as if he does not know how to answer. They both stayed quiet for a moment until Madison got an idea, and she looked over at Johnny. Johnny, can I try something? Madison asks as she looks over him. What is it? Johnny asks as he looks at her with soft eyes. Madison hesitates for a moment before touching his hand, and she notices hers and his powers are not swapped, and she looks at him and Johnny looks at her. I can touch you, Johnny says happily as he does not think and lifts her up with Madison squealing, and he kisses her, and she kisses him back. After a while, Johnny and Madison walk back inside, and they overhear Reed and Susan. Sue, why do you keep watching this? Reed asks gently after he walked into the room. Susan shook her head. I cannot ignore it, Reed. There is no getting away from this. Madison leaned against the wall nearby, her arms folded across her chest. She is right. They twist everything into a spectacle. It is not just noise, Reed, it hurts. Reed sighs, before sitting on the edge of the table, before looking at Susan. I believe there is a way, Reed said carefully. Susan looks up. How? Reed sighs again, as he is fumbling for words. See, no answer, Susan scoffed softly. Yes, there is, Reed said quickly as he looks at Susan, and Susan looks at him confused. What if, after this crisis is over, we leave it all behind? Reed asks gently. Susan blinked for a moment before asking, What are you talking about? We move out of the Baxter building. I will take a teaching position somewhere, get back to my research. Reed's voice softened as he sits down next to Susan on the couch. Across the room, Johnny shot Madison a look. Madison's eyes widened, her lips parting in surprise. And the two of us will live our lives and raise a family like normal people, Reed finishes. Susan's lips curved into a smile. You would do that? Susan asks. Nothing's more important to me than our future together, Reed tells her in his sincere tone. Oh, thank you, Susan says as she leaning forward and hugs him. Reed smiles as Susan laughs faintly before pulling back, her laughter dying down as a thought crossed her face. What about Ben, Johnny, and Madison? Susan asks worried, knowing two things. One, she knows Ben would keep Madison safe, but after finding out Reed is her safe place from her creating a clone of him, she is worried that Madison will lose it. Two, even though Johnny is trying his best for Madison, what if he gets distracted again while Madison is having another panic attack? Reed hesitated as he looked away for a moment before looking back at her. Well, they'll understand, Reed reassures her. Madison's brows knitted, and she exchanged another worried glance with Johnny. Besides, Reed added, Johnny has always been more of a solo act. Let's not mention it yet. Johnny's got enough to worry about as it is with his power problems, Susan tells Reed. At that, Johnny turned and walked out. Madison closed on his heels. Johnny and Madison arrive at the room where Ben and Alicia are, and Madison is slowly picking at her sleeve, worried. They're breaking up the team, Johnny announced as he sat down. Ben looks at Johnny, confused. Huh. Reed and Sue, Johnny said as he points to the room where Reed and Susan are. I just overheard them. They want a nice, normal, boring-ass life. No more Fantastic Five. Ben looks over to Alicia and Madison, where Alicia is holding her hand, quietly giving Madison reassurance. Madison was the one to grab her hand, knowing she is blind. Well, what do they expect us to do? Keep it going, just the three of us? Ben asked. Johnny shrugs his shoulders as he replied. And call us what? The Power Trio. Alicia scoffed at the name, but she did not smile. This is not funny. They are talking about leaving us. Like we are just placeholders until they figure out their perfect life, Madison says as her voice is quieter but firm. When were they gonna tell us? Ben frowned. Who knows, probably never, Johnny says. They will tell you when they are ready to tell you. It is their decision, not yours, Alicia says softly as she shook her head. But we're family too, Madison blurted, her throat tight. She looked down at the floor, twisting her fingers together. Don't we get a say in what happens to us? We have risked our lives just as much. Alicia softened. Sweetheart, you can't be mad at them for doing what makes them happy. Johnny's jaw clenched as Madison swallowed back her frustration. He knows that Reed has not told her about her being a child to two famous mutants, or even that she is a mutant. The room fell quiet, the weight of Reed and Sue's possible future pressing heavy on all of them.